Committee reports, legislative update. Mrs. Shorter?
Yes, I have an update tonight. Okay, just go through a couple of things. So as things pertain to House Bill 239, beginning with the class of 2022, it eliminates the requirement that high school students take a nationally standardized college admission assessment for graduation, beginning with the class of 2023. Reduces the number of end-of-course exams required for the graduation from 5 to 4 for 2020 and the 2021 school year. It prohibits student retention under the third grade reading guarantee passed in the House on 5/28/20. So as of right now, this has gone to the Senate. It was referred to the Senate Education Committee on September 1st. So we're following that one. I did want to give an update on what's happening with the report cards. There was definitely some debates and actions taking place behind the scenes with a little bit of lobbying to make sure that the report cards were not used in a way that could negatively impact the district in light of COVID. So as of right now, the Ohio Department of Education has announced that the 2020 Ohio School Report Cards are expected to be released. Well, they were released September 15th. The report cards will not have grades or ratings due to provisions in House Bill 197. So the Ohio Department of Education's annual schools report cards don't feature any grades or any specific markers such as that for districts or buildings this year. So the Ohio Department of Education says the 2020 report cards for districts and buildings do not contain overall grades, individual grades, or ratings for given components or performance measures. The report cards also do not include any information about student performance on state tests, the academic growth of students during the year, and the extent to which achievement gaps are being addressed for students. This is in keeping with the legislation passed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic that also canceled the administration of most state tests for the last portion of the 2019-2020 school year. ODE released in a statement earlier. So the 2020 edition of grades does feature information on graduation rates, prepared for success indicators, and some other measures. So you can find this information at reportcard.education.ohio.gov. And if you have any questions on that, I can address those. But as you recall, the Prepared for Success features information about how we've done on testing as far as AP testing, ACT testing, and that overall component for college readiness. Another update is on the CARES Act funding. This is something that I'd mentioned before, previously in other board meetings, and I just want to give an update of where we are with that and give you a little bit of the background. So before giving the update, this started when the Congress moved to distribute about $13.5 billion. This was actually monies that were specifically spelled out for Congress that would mitigate relief due to the pandemic. Lawmakers specifically from both parties said that most of the CARES Act funding, K through 12, was intended to be distributed to public and private elementary and secondary schools using a formula that was based on how many poor children they serve. This had been the long-standing standard, so it was based on the number of poor children in either public or private schools. What happened and what caused all of the uproar in this latest lawsuit that has taken place against the Department of Education is that those monies, or a portion of those monies, were actually funneled to private schools on the basis of how many students they had not how many poor students they had. So it resulted in millions of dollars going outside of where those dollars were slated for. So as of now, the United States Department of Education has quietly dropped the controversial rule directing that states give private schools a bigger share of federal coronavirus aid money from the CARES Act. So the rule was actually struck down by the U.S. District Court Judge Dabney Friedrich, and she indicated in her summary judgment that it would be applied nationwide. She stated that in enacting the education funding provisions of the CARES Act, Congress spoke with a clear voice, and the Education Secretary did not follow the law when she changed the formula for distributing the funds to private schools. Judge Friedrich was the third judge who had ruled against the Education Secretary. Two earlier cases were heard in Washington and California. Both judges put a hold on the implementation of the rule in limited areas of the country. However, Friedrich's decision covered the entire country and ordered that the rule be vacated. And as a result, the Department of Education has dropped their proceedings with that distribution of monies from public schools. So that is the update there. If you have any questions about any of those, I'll try to address it. Sorry, I sound so muffly that I could not find my nice little Fairfield mask, and this is too tight, so my apologies in the age of COVID and what we do to get by. But if you have any questions, I'll try to address those.
Any questions for Mrs. Shorter? Well, thank you very much. Could you share that with us? Just email the copy of what you have there.
I sure can. I gave a paper copy to Nancy, but I'll share that.
If you can share electronically, that would be great.
Yep.
And that way, if people have questions for us, we could also share it with them.
Okay.
Because that was quite detailed and a lot of information there, so that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of updates, a lot of things going on.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Shorter. The Butler Tech update. Mrs. Shorter had some questions for us last meeting, and I did get the answers for those, and I will send those out electronically. It had to do with welding demographics, teacher academy, fashion design, and sewing interests. And so I'll get those emailed to the board and leadership team. I just got the answers this afternoon, so I apologize I didn't have them for you. And of course, I just shared the newsletter with everyone, and a lot of it had to do with adult education, but there was one particular section where it talked about we had students that went on to win the highest rating in the state of Ohio for equine science. So that's sort of their state championship. And so it was delayed because of COVID, and so 3 of the students had graduated in 2020, but just now got the award. So I just wanted to share that. Any questions for Butler Tech update?
That's great, though. Just like you were talking before about how the kids being able to finish their art projects, I feel the same way about what you just said. It's great it's great to be recognized, even if that moment has already, it's
Right.
wonderful.
It had to be done virtually.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
things like
It's
that,
still
but
great, though, for them to have that closure.
Right.
Yeah,
It was
that's
great.
great.
Okay, Planning Commission, Mr. Begley?
Yeah, the Planning Commission meets every couple weeks, and I usually don't report if it doesn't immediately impact the district in some way, and I'm not sure this does either, but you and those watching may find it interesting. Last meeting, we had a minor modification to the plans to build a new Dunkin' restaurant, formerly known as Dunkin' Donuts. It's going to be built on the lot adjacent to Chick-fil-A on Gilmore Road.
In front of the Meyer.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, cool.
great.
So I should buy bigger pants, is what you're telling me? You're giving me a little heads up?
Lunch and dinner, or breakfast and lunch, right there.
That's exciting.
Anything else?
No.
Any questions for Mr. Bailey? Thank you very much. Student achievement, Mrs. O'Neill.
Mrs. Lane kind of stole my thunder today, but that's okay, because the thunder really belongs to Caden Cummings, who, what she didn't mention is, and you may or may not know, he's a kindergartner, so he's not even like, at the end of elementary school, he's at the very, very beginning. So to have spent your summer at a lemonade stand and then donate over $1,000 to North Elementary School is pretty incredible. So he deserves all the praise that we can give him, so thank you. That's a pretty special kid.
Yeah, he actually inspired my granddaughter, like, after seeing that, she came back looking for money, and we're like, well, what do you want money for? Well, I'm raising it for
Yeah.
charity. It's like, well, what charity? Well, all of them. We'll have to,
That's a good spirit,
we're
though.
going to have to specify something, because she's actually looking into doing something right now.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah, that was great for that student.
Yeah.
Love to have the chance to meet him and congratulate him and thank him. Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. O'Neill?